Okay, this is Yaakov, and I just prayed and asked Hashem to speak to me and give me an answer on some stuff that I didn't even know. I guess I just prayed to God. I said, Hashem, just open my heart, and whatever you have to give, I want to hear what it is. So I'm sitting here outside. It's I don't know what time it is. It's kind of late, and I'm just reading Torah, and this is what I'm reading. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over it. Let's do it for fun, They journeyed from Elam, not sure I say that, and the entire assembly of the children of Israel arrived at the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elam and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month from their departure from the land of Egypt. The entire assembly of the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The children of Israel said to them, "If only we had died by the hand of Hashem in the land of Egypt, and we sat by the pot of meat when we ate bread to satiety. For you have taken us out of this wilderness." So, alright, Hashem, how does this relate? So, let's read the commentary. The commentary says, although the sweetened water of Marah had shown that God was not forsaken Israel, and that his attention extended to mundane daily needs, the lesson had not yet been fully observed. When the entire assembly arrived, the wilderness of Sin, the people felt threatened by hunger. They protested again, this time even more vehemently than in Marah, going so far as to say that they had been better off in Egypt than now. The spectacle is disquieting but not surprising, for hunger and the fear that one will not be able to provide for one's children can drive people to deeds that will never think themselves capable of doing under normal circumstances. So, I would say, how does that apply? A lot of times, I know that God's calling me to do something, or keep Shabbos, or whatever, move to Israel or whatever, and the big fear is always well, how am I going to provide for my family, and so it's so I could totally relate with that when he says, that the spectacle is disquieting but not surprising. Well, no, it's not surprising, because for hunger and the fear that one will not provide for one's children can drive people to deeds that they would never think themselves capable of doing. I mean, absolutely, I would never think that anything could keep me from my observance to Torah. But when it comes down to, am I providing for my family? Am I taking care of my kids? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Providing for your family, it start making you question things, start making you have doubts, start making you, it's a tough one. It says this too was part of Israel's schooling for eternity. So, obviously that when I'm looking at not observing Torah for, not keeping Shabbos, or not going where God calls me to go, or doing what God calls me to do because I'm worried about these things, then it says right here, this too was part of Israel's schooling for eternity. So obviously this is something that I have to go through, something that I have to learn, part of my schooling for eternity, part of what Hashem's trying to teach me, something I have to work through in order to get to the next place. And then so let's go on and read. Let's keep reading. It says, this too is part of Israel's schooling for eternity, for God was about to give them manna, heavenly food, which proved that desserts cannot hamper God's infinite capacity to provide for his children. So, I just noticed right here, it says, for God was about to give them manna. So it's here they are, they're complaining, and God's ready to give them manna. Right there, he's about to give them food from heaven. Everything they need, all of their vitality, everything right there, he's about ready to give them, and they're complaining, oh, we're starving. And so it's here he is, he's right on the verge of giving them everything they want, everything they need, but before he even gets a chance to do it, they're oh, this is, we're starving to death, we're gonna die. So maybe instead of focusing on the suffering and starving and what are we going to do, we just need to trust God, because our redemption could just be right around the corner, So you see it's dark out here. Sorry to bore you with looking at the book, but you can't really see me in the dark, I'm sure. Anyway, so let's keep reading. Anyway, this lesson was a lesson that the nation was to carry with it for the rest of its history. To this very day, often one hears that the observance of Torah stands in the way of livelihood. Like we were just talking about, keeping Shabbos, like my work won't give me Shabbos off. It's like find another job, but I make a lot less money an hour. How will I provide for my family? That type of thing. Go to Israel. How will I get there? How will I live? What about my family? How will I take care of them? That kind of thing. And we're not the only one. My wife, she's the same worry, same things. Like, what would you do? How would we live? Things like that. And the blessing of man proves the opposite. The blessing of man proves that God is our livelihood. But it says the blessing of man proves the opposite. When Israel neglected the Torah or lost faith in Mara and sin, it was thirsty or hungry. When it recognized that God is its healer and provider, there was plenty instead of need. So when we realize that God is the ultimate, God is the one who provides for us, not us. God is the one who provides for our family, not me. I don't provide for my family. God provides for my family. When we realize that, then there's going to be plenty instead of need. We'll just keep going. I mean, it's getting long. People are probably getting bored, but let's just go on and read. It says, comments that manna was the greatest of all miracles, even greater than splitting the sea, because the manna was with the Jews day in and day out without fail for 40 years, while other miracles were isolated events. And that is true, because I've had an isolated miracle here, an isolated miracle there, and it's like a big miracle, but it does come and it goes. And anyway, it says that they complained, and it was not until the 15th of Layar, a month after the Exodus, that the nation complained about the lack of food. Until then, they subsisted on the leftovers of the dough of matzah they had taken out of Egypt. The leftovers relatively were small amounts. If food were enough to satisfy a large population for a month, it would have been impossible without divine intervention. This is one of the main hidden miracles that the Torah does not recount, but it alludes to here by mentioning the date. It's not necessary to spell out every miracle, because Jews know that even nature is nothing more than a miracle to which we are accustomed, because it happens regularly. Sorry. So a miracle happens regularly. It's still a miracle. Anyway, I guess the main focus just was on the providing for the family and trusting in Hashem to provide for us. Knock, 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 knock.